Right, in part 3, we're drawing the horizontal and vertical stabilizers. So it's very much the same. Trace around the outside of the image, and here I'm just drawing myself a plane so that I can have the drawing for the loft, have somewhere to put that. And what I'm doing here is drawing the vertical stabilizer top down, mirroring it, and then here's the second plane, which is my second loft plane. And again, draw the same sort of shape, coincident it or pierce it with the reference sketch, make it look somewhat nice. And then I'm using the reference sketches to guide the loft to what I need. Here I'm having problems just because the reference sketch is not fully coincidented with the bottom plane. So here I realised that because the fuselage is cylindrical, I actually need to move that plane down slightly. This this lets the sketches intersect, and I have a full intersection of the surface model. And here I can trim it out, and it still is flush without any gaps. And then I'm just going to put this all in a folder to keep them organised. And then for the horizontal stabilizers, it's very similar, except this time I'm using an airfoil section, so the same one as the wing, the Clark Y. And I'm just going to move that into the sketch, adjust it to be the correct size, and then move it onto the where it is in the reference image. This can also be changed. The angular attack of this horizontal stabilizer can be changed. So if you find that you have to have a lot of nose weight, you can change this angle so that you have more lift, so the angular attack relative to the main wing is higher, and then you have more lift, which then pushes the nose of the aircraft downwards, and you can use that instead of extra weight. So it's very much a case of printing it, seeing how it flies, and then you can come back and adjust it later. And then again, draw around the horizontal stabilizer, make a sketch that you're going to follow with the loft. And you might notice that all my wing sections I've always left the tips off. That's half because it makes it easier to put in the ailerons or the control surfaces, but it's also easier to do once the main section's down. Once we trim it into printable sizes, we can then add on the pieces that we need, and it's much easier for the if you have a low powered computer to do that then, because you're not trying to render the whole aircraft. And here I'm just trimming out the extra parts. And then because the horizontal stabilizer overhangs the very back, I'm just going to look at how to do this the correct way. But really, I had quite a lot of problems trying to get this to work. Um, so here I am just doing a test as to what I want to do. Just have basically a dome at the end. But because SolidWorks seems to change when it wants to have an error, it might work in one sketch but then not in another. So it's very much trial and error to get it to work. So the main problem I had here was that because the horizontal stabilizer intersected this, it wouldn't draw a full sketch. And so really I feel the best way to have done this would be to go back into the original fuselage body, and then before we trimmed out those extra parts, to just have another plane. I did eventually get this to work. It took a bit of trial and error and modifying and going back and forwards, but in the end I just basically played with it until it resembled somewhat what I wanted it to look like. And this is why in some ways it's easier to model the surfaces for the body, wings and the stabilizers independently before you trim and then carry on. So what I did there was just use the extend surface tool just to move out a little bit. And now I'm just going back and fixing the errors that we got. And now I'm coming back in, trimming away the extra bits. You can see that Google is your friend, or if you're having a problem with what you're trying to do, then just give it a search. Here I'm trying to trim away the parts so that the horizontal stabilizer is hollow all the way into the fuselage, but I can only trim away one part, and once I trim away that, I can't then trim away the second part, and I can do either or but not both. So in the end I just made the fuselage solid and the extra parts separate to that.